Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 853 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Today, recording day is Thursday, February 19th, 2026, and as you can tell, it's evening here at the Puerto Vallarta Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? Mine is doing quite well, thank you. I've had a very productive last few days. I'm very sorry that I did not have a show air earlier today. I had been rather busy yesterday. I had attended an event here that will lead to a show. I attended, if those of you who have been following us for a while, a few years ago, we had a show, True North Eager Beaver interview project with our guest, Murray Billett at the time, who was talking about the Delvin Vreend case, which is the case that changed the law at the Supreme Court to include sexual orientation as a prohibited grounds of discrimination in our charter. Yesterday, here in Puerto Vallarta, there was the screening of a documentary called Pride versus Prejudice that actually deals with those events. And they had a fundraiser here in Puerto Vallarta, and there were people here with that, and they were raising money for the Puerto Vallarta Community Center, Gay Community Center here. And I got a chance to meet with Murray, who was here on vacation, had organized the event. I also had a chance to meet with the associate producer of the documentary. And today here I did an interview with him, which I will package together and present to you as a show when I get back home. And I also met somebody else, who I'm not going to tell you right now, because, you know, sometimes I like to tease and show a little leg, little ankle, even sometimes all the way to the mid-thigh. But I talked to that person, and they were here to help present this, and had a conversation, and they agreed to be a guest on the show. So, and I will have to, again, in a little bit of teasing, perhaps the biggest political get that we will have ever had so far on our show in our history. So a big name for us. I posted yesterday, you'll never guess who I met. A lot of you had tried to guess. Some of you just wanted me to tell you, but that's not how it works. If I say you never guess who, you got to at least try one guess. But it is someone from the world of politics in the theme of the show, and I think you will be very happy when I am able to have the conversation with that person and record it and present it to you. Once again, It's not only just a tease, but I don't want to say too much just in case it ultimately does not happen. But I do have contact information for them personally, not through a press secretary, not through a press attaché, in order to be able to arrange the event. So it is looking good that this will happen. But I am very, very excited. It was an extremely productive day. And of course, with the news uh, on 2 days ago, on the 18th, with the Matt Jeneroux floor crossing and airing the episode that we had for that day, which I apologize for again. We weren't able to figure out why it is that only the first 15 seconds of that show aired and then the show cut off. Nobody was ever be able to figure it out. I talked to people from the streaming platform, and we're all scratching our heads. But the material was saved, so I was able to air it after having done a live hit with the big bombshell news, which was a third floor crossing in 3 months towards the Liberals from the Conservative Party. So very, very busy couple of the past few days, and therefore I was not able to do a show this morning. There's also the fact that I was monitoring the curling match between Canada and South Korea, the women's curling match, because it was for all the marbles in the sense for qualifying for the medal round. And I'm happy to say that Team Homan did get the win against Team South Korea. It was looking tight at the beginning, and somewhere in the sixth end, there was some mistakes from the South Korean team, and Rachel Homan and the rest of the team was able to take advantage of that. They were able to score 4 in the sixth end, and they never looked back after that. So they are in the playoffs. And of course, the men's team had their first playoff match today, and they did play against Norway, and that one went to an extra end. But Team Canada had hammer in the extra end and was able to convert. So they are going to the final for the gold medal game. So the women's team in the playoffs, the men's team in the gold medal game. Men's team, Team Homan, will be playing Team Sweden in the semifinal. Team Sweden, who they did manage to beat in the round robin. Very exciting. And Team Homan, of course, a great story because they were 1-3. 1 win, 3 losses after the first 4, and at that point, they basically went out to get their way into the medal contention. And today against Korea, because South Korea had also defeated Sweden and Canada had defeated Italy, so it came down to this match with tied records, and Canada did indeed win the match. And again, Rachel Homan and team playing very well there. And as for Brad Jacobs and the men playing against Norway in the extra end, when Brad Jacobs threw his first shot, it was pretty much a perfect freeze into something that was already straddling the forefoot in the button, and pretty much clinched the game right there. The Norwegian team did not make their shot next, and Brad Jacobs didn't have to throw the last stone. The game was won. So very exciting for us who like the sport of curling, because it was getting a little, at the time where the Canadian team did not do as well in mixed doubles, and then Team Homan was 1-3, and the men's team had that incident with Sweden with regard to double touching the rock after it had crossed the hog line. It just looked like the wheels were falling off for the entire team. But the men had a day off, and they had a meeting, and they regrouped. And the women at one point were able to win their next 2 matches, and then had a day off, and they were able to regroup. So it is looking very positive at the moment. So fingers crossed that Team Homan will be able to defeat Team Sweden the second time in a row. And maybe we'll have 2 teams playing for gold medals. That would be very exciting. Also, this afternoon, because I could have done something this afternoon, but this afternoon was the women's gold medal match in hockey. And some lovely members of the DAM fam, thank you, Kit Uncover, were able to host a live watch party through our DAM fam Discord, which allowed me to watch it from here. It's the first bit of the Olympics I've actually been able to see. was a very exciting match. Team Canada almost had it. Eh, Everything but the last 2 minutes, it looked like it was going to be a golden year again. And then, Hillary Knight, who can usually be depended on for the United States, scored. And then, of course, in overtime, the United States scored to take the gold. So a disappointing result. However, it was a really exciting game, as Kit Saucy had mentioned in the chat. It's the only thing. It was so good, it should have been able to be aired during primetime hours because it was that good. In Ontario, it would appear that through the Doug Ford and through the Minister of Education, they gave permission to not be teaching course material during that time, so that the kids can watch that, which was a nice touch. But the Canadian women have absolutely no reason to hold their heads down. I hope they're holding their heads high. They were visibly disappointed when they were getting their medals. That's understandable because they had tried so hard and they had a game plan and they did execute it perfectly. But the fates just were not going to allow it today. But I hope they are holding their heads up high, and I hope they do not think for a single second that they let anybody in Canada down, because they certainly did it after having lost 7 matches in a row to the United States and having that 5-0 loss in the pre-playoff tournament competition, to be able to play this way and really deliver in the clutch. It was a great match, and when the medals were being put around the necks, when they gave it to Marie-Philippe Poulin, there was some extra loud cheer in the crowd, which I thought was very, very classy of the spectators that were there. So, the only thing we can complain about is that it wasn't gold, because we certainly can't complain about the performance. It was a really competitive and very entertaining match. So with all of that, no show during the day, but I am taking care of it before I'm going to bed, and we are going to, you will be able to see this on Friday morning, of course, and then hopefully I will be able to do another hour for you so that you have a Friday show once I am done this, if I'm not too tired, because it's been a long day. But since we're talking about the Olympics, we have a couple of other things to be proud of, kids and cubs. And one of them is, again, our speed skaters. Mr. Stephen Dubois had an absolutely fantastic race. I think it is in the 500 meters in short track speed skating, and finally got his individual gold medal. So apparently he now has a full set career-wise, and very happy about that. Says here, let's see what else. I'm just going to see if I can get to the story here for you to read a little bit about it, because this is a long time coming for him, and he definitely deserves this. There's the photo of him, and he's got this medal like this, and he's looking up, almost like saying, "Finally." This is according to Chris Jones of CBC. It says Stephen Dubois crossed the finish line with his mouth and his arms competing over which could open wider. He had just won gold in the men's 500-meter short track final, beating fellow Canadian Willem Dan Jeneroux and 3 Dutch skaters, including brothers Meili and Jens van Voet, who took silver and bronze. And then there was the 3,000-meter relay team, who had won bronze earlier in a thrilling evening at the Milano Ice Skating Arena. Waiting for Dubois in a corner of the rink, he fell into their collective arms before Canadian flag was draped across his narrow shoulders. He skated one more lap, this time as Olympic champion. Quote, "It means so much, honestly," the 28-year-old said after his race, which took 40.835 seconds, and forever. "There are so many emotions that come into this. It's relief, it's satisfaction, and pride. Because of the extraordinarily strange setup in the final, an individual event that essentially pitted 2 teams against each other, with a pair of brothers within one of them, Dubois risked a tactic he'd never attempted in competition. Normally, the diminutive Dubois likes to skate from the back, drafting larger skaters and overtaking late. but in Wednesday's race, he took the lead immediately, slipping past Jens van Wout, who already had a gold in the 1,000 and 1,500 meter finals. In short track, space between the skaters allows pursuers to accelerate. Dubois kept his lead, but skated relatively slowly, purposely keeping the gap small, preventing the Dutch from gaining speed. It also kept the race cluttered, which led to the third Dutch skater, Toon Boer, crashing out after Jeneroux made an aggressive passing move. Quote, "I make one mistake and I'm going to fall back in fifth position," Dubois said, and gambled on myself, and it paid off. It was a bittersweet night for Jeneroux, who finished just off the podium in his third consecutive individual race, crossed the line in fourth, but received a penalty for failure to give way and dropped to fifth. 4 days ago, he finished fifth in the 1,500 meter final, 2 days after he finished fourth in the 1,000 meter. Quote, "I race to win," the 24-year-old said. "The medal that I'm aiming for is always gold. I know that taking a risk is how you get gold. Individually, it's not for me today. There's still part of me that feels like today I won gold with Stephen. I feel like there's a part of me in that medal." But Dubois took the podium alone. He tapped it with both hands before he climbed on top of it, as though to make sure the moment was real, and kissed his medal the instant it was draped around his neck. After he kept looking down at it, touching it, his hands trembling with a rush of thoughts and feelings and adrenaline. The short track team has now claimed 5 medals at Milano Cortina, a foundational haul for Canada, which has 14. Courtney Sarault has 4 of them. The women's relay team, Sarault, Kim Boutin, Florence Brunel, and Danae Blais, led their race against Italy, Korea, and the Netherlands from the 3rd of 26 laps. Midway through, one of the Dutch skaters tripped on Brunel's blade. She somehow kept her balance, barely, while the Dutch skater fell, meaning a medal was all but guaranteed. The slip by Blais in the 23rd lap gave the Italians a chance to overtake. The Koreans, too, passed before catching Italy on the last lap to win a surprise gold. Quote, "I think we almost fell at one point," Sarault said. "It was just a lot of action, a lot of crazy stuff. I think that's short track, and we handled that really well. At the end, things happened. We have long blades on our feet, and sometimes you don't always get lucky. But I couldn't be prouder of this team. We skated with heart." Sarault has also picked up silvers in the mixed relay in the 1,000 meter finals and a bronze in the 500 meter event, and I would not be surprised if she ends up being one of the flag bearers at the closing ceremony. As for Boutin, she has now 6 medals in 3 Olympics, which ties her with Charles Emelin and Cindy Klassen for the most career medals by a Canadian at the Winter Olympics. That too could probably earn her the privilege of being the flag bearer at the closing ceremony. Do you give the honor to somebody for the full career, or do you give the honor to someone who is basically the star for Canada at these Olympics in terms of a number of medals won? And Dubois has won 5 in total in 2 Winter Olympics. On the ride from the Olympic Village to the rink, Sarault had reminded him of his capabilities. She had felt even before the team arrived in Milan that Dubois would come home with gold. Quote, "I never doubted him for a second," she said. "I wanted to make him laugh and remind him of who he is and how strong he really is, because I don't think he necessarily remembers or realizes how strong he is. I just feel like he's been capable of this for so long. I knew Stephen was going to perform." Canada's short track team will have one more chance to add to its remarkable tally on Friday when the women compete at the 1,500 meter distance and the men in the 5,000 meter relay. So that's today, if you're watching this, chances for 2 more medals at least in those categories for Canada. Quote, "Every medal feels different, honestly," Sarault said. "Every medal has its own little feeling and is its own little experience." Stephen Dubois looked at his once again. He didn't list it in his catalog of emotions, but it was there in his eyes and in his smile, widening still. He felt joy. That is such a good story. And again, he's such a great guy. And like I said, as Sarault said, you know, everybody who's seen him perform knows what he's capable of. So nobody is surprised that he had this in him, and for him to be able to deliver, this is absolutely fantastic for him. You have to absolutely be happy for the guy. He has definitely put in the work and definitely deserves the rewards. So yeah, kids and cubs, pretty good couple of days. And of course, the women's team winning silver in hockey, which is also adding to our medal haul here. going back to what is in the notes here from CBC, tomorrow might be a pretty good day for Team Canada when it comes to competing at the Olympics, because there is the possibility here that it's going to be a multi-medal day. And when I say multi-medal, one at least, probably, but up to potentially 5 perhaps on the day. So it's going to be really exciting. Taking a look here at other things that happened at the Olympics. Sorry, I'm just having a little trouble here with the computer, and hopefully I will be able to get this a little bit. There we go. So Canadians to watch today, if you're watching this Friday, Marielle Thompson in the women's ski cross, who was one of the flag bearers in the opening ceremony. So there's definitely a possibility of the medal there. According to CBC, it says here Canada's greatest ski cross racer won Olympic gold in 2014 and took silver in 2022, while adding a world championship in 2019. So she is definitely someone to watch in this event. Women's curling, of course, Canada versus Sweden in the semifinals, and that will probably be taking place a little later today. Well, actually, this show will probably be airing as it starts. In speed skating, Ivani Blondet in the women's 1,500 meter is a possibility for a medal there, especially now that she has a medal in the pursuit. She might want to build on that. In men's hockey, Canada versus Finland in the semifinal. It was a pretty close match against Czechia, but Canada did pull it out in overtime to get that win to qualify for this match here. In freestyle skiing, Kits and Cubs, there will also be Brendan McKay in the men's half pipe, and he's an outside medal contender here. Captured the world title in 2023 and won a gold and silver on the World Cup circuit last season, but finished 7th at last year's Worlds and was 14th in each of his 2 World Cup starts this season. So he has the potential, but it's having a little more of a difficult season this year. And then, of course, as we mentioned, the men's relay final in short track, and Courtney Sarault in the women's 1,500. There are some opportunities there as well. And this one for the men, William Dagenou, Stephen Dubois, to probably try to have him, energized by his gold. Félix Roussel and Maxime Laoune are expected to skate for Canada in that final. And if Dubois wins, he will match Charles Hamelin for his 6th medal after winning his first gold in the 500, as we had just mentioned. Canada will face South Korea and the Netherlands and Italy in the final. There will be 4 teams. 3 will leave with medals. As for the 1,500, Sarault will be going for 5th medals of the game, which would tie long track skater Cindy Klassen's 20-year-old Canadian record for a single Olympics, winter or summer. Sarault has reached the podium in every event she's skated so far, grabbing silver in the 1,000 and in the mixed relay, and bronze in the 500 and the women's relay. In her 4 1,500 meter starts on the world tour this season, the women's overall champ won a gold, a silver, and a bronze. There will also be Kim Boutin who had won her 6th career medal, as we mentioned in the previous story, competing in this event as well. So lots of opportunity here, Canada, to bring home some hardware. So it's going to be a very exciting day. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to cheer and send your good vibes to encourage our athletes. In other news, Kits and Cubs, there's still more fallout from the floor crossing from Matt Jeneroux, and the meltdown is absolutely real here. If the Conservatives, if we had hoped that the Conservatives were going to deal with this in a mature and adult way, that went out the window, as you know, as soon as Pierre Poilievre started responding that, talking about betrayal and all that kind of stuff, and all those other words that we typically hear, traitor, and he, sold out the constituents and all that kind of stuff. So clearly it was not going to be a mature response. You would think that the Conservatives would want to try to turn over a new leaf here, but that is not the case. So the way that they reacted is in a basically conduct unbecoming, turns off a lot of Canadians, and basically proves that Jeneroux probably made the right move. And because if an MP wants to be productive, and again, it's not like this is the just Trudeau Liberals who are, as the Conservatives would be saying, pursuing all this woke ideology. He's very much a pragmatic. A lot of people would refer to him as a progressive conservative. So it's not that far a jump if you are a moderate conservative within the Conservative Party, and especially if you're in the Conservative Party that have been pretty much purity testing and not making you feel welcome. So, it's not that big of a jump ideologically if you were already a moderate conservative to come to the Liberals now under Mark Carney. So there was a bit of a moment where they were together in a room that was pretty sparsely decorated, but they chatted a little bit. I think it was only about fewer than a 4-minute clip that was on there, where Matt Jeneroux made it clear that it was Mark Carney's speech in Davos. At least that's the story that prompted him to have a conversation with his family and decide that he was going to stay on as an MP and work within the Liberal fold, because it seems that we have an MP that wants to accomplish something for the nation and for his constituents, rather than behaving like they're on the schoolyard and that it's always recess, and that they get to basically bully every other kid in order to get the ball and then demand that they play with them. So this is a move that obviously the Conservatives are not taking well. There is some coverage of this that is interesting that I wanted to bring to you in iPolitics in particular. If I just scroll down here, there's a Conservative MP, and this is according to Marco Vigliotti, who's the editor-in-chief, that says that Poilievre's future could be in doubt if the Liberals secure a majority. And on others, there's several shows now that people are starting to talk about who's next, and that's usually not a good sign for the leader. But according to Marco Vigliotti, the federal Conservatives are reeling from the loss of a third MP in the past 4 months, raising renewed questions about Pierre Poilievre's control of caucus and his grip on the leadership. The Conservative MP told iPolitics that Poilievre's support in caucus has clearly fallen since the election, and it would drop further if the Liberals are able to cobble together enough floor crossers to push them across the 172-seat majority threshold in the House. The MP was granted anonymity to share their concerns freely, likened Poilievre's predicament to his predecessor, Erin O'Toole, who was ousted as leader in a caucus vote in early 2022. That vote happened several months after the September 2021 election, in which O'Toole kept the Liberals to a minority, but was unable to make gains for the party. The MP said that after the vote, some 30% of the caucus wanted O'Toole gone, while another 30% could have been swayed. Poilievre, they said, quote, is probably in the same situation, and the longer he goes without an election, the more difficult it will be to keep up the unity. And this is kind of interesting because you had Fred Delory on Power and Politics saying yesterday, well, hey, basically there's nobody waiting in the wings, so this gives Pierre time now in order to be who he is, and to deliver his policies and to keep talking and doing all that kind of stuff. And Mark Carney's not going to be this loved forever, so time is Poilievre's best friend. Mark Carney's not his best friend, if you want to say that. And Pierre just has to keep on doing what he's doing and wait. And there will be an opportunity for him. And hey, who knows? Maybe there'll be somebody in the Liberal fold who doesn't like what Mark Carney is doing, and the floor crossing it happened the other way, which provoked a certain amount of chuckles, if not on the set, throughout the social media sphere with some reputable columnists and opinion leaders in the media, branding it as hopium here, that could happen. But hey, statistically, I guess it is within the realm of possibility. However, considering that Pierre is who Pierre is and his inability to pivot, I would have more confidence than not that there will be, that it's more likely that there will be more floor crossings in the Liberals' way than there are one from the Liberal going the Conservative way here. Going back to the article, the Liberals' poaching of Edmonton MP Jeneroux on Wednesday puts the party at 169 seats in the House, but there are 3 vacancies currently that, if filled by Liberals, would put the party at the majority threshold of 172. 2 of those are seats in Ontario and considered safe ridings for the party, and the others in Terrebonne, where Liberals won by single vote in that last April's election. There could also be a coming by-election in the Montreal riding of Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie, because NDP MP Alexandre Boulerice is rumored to be considering running for Quebec Solidaire in the Quebec provincial election this fall. And then if he has that seat, one could suspect that there's a good chance that seat could go Liberal federally as well. Boulerice is reportedly weighing a bid to run for the party in Gouin. That's the riding. However, the Quebec Solidaire recently passed a resolution to nominate only women or non-binary people in ridings currently held by the party. Quebec Solidaire spokesperson Gabrielle Nadeau-Dubois won Gouin by over 45 points in the last election in 2022. A source with the NDP told iPolitics that, quote, nothing at all is set in stone on Boulerice's future. The third floor crossing by Conservative MP had ignited new rumors about potential future defections. And I just want to stop on that Boulerice thing, because Boulerice came to prominence in Quebec on the Orange Wave with Jack Layton, and he's the only remaining MP for the NDP federally in Quebec. And that if he were to do that, that would definitely be another blow to the party. Another comment that had been made by some pundits is with regard to the floor crossings to the Liberals, that it was important to note that one, Jeneroux, comes from Alberta, D'Entremont comes from Nova Scotia, and the third one, Michael Ma, comes from Ontario. So the fact that these MPs are coming from various parts of the country would indicate that there is a national strength for Mark Carney and national support from coast to coast to coast for what it is that he is doing and the plan that he is putting into place. Here, it goes on to say, even with Jeneroux and a sweep of the 3 vacant seats, the Liberal would face difficult math in the House because the Speaker is a Liberal. The party could only count on 171 votes in most situations. That's the same number of seats the opposition parties would jointly hold. While the Speaker would vote to break a tie, convention states they must vote to continue debate. That would help the government in non-confidence votes, but could thwart efforts to curtail debate to speed up the passage of legislation. Several Conservative MPs have been rumored as potential defectors, but it's unclear if it's baseless speculation or something more concrete. Quebec MP Joël Godin, one of several names floated as a possible floor crosser, told iPolitics on Wednesday that he was staying with the Conservatives. Another big question looming over the Conservative leadership picture is Poilievre's popularity. A poll released earlier this week by Abacus Data showed that among all voters, Poilievre's approval rating stands at -7. A Main Street research poll from earlier this month showed that 54% had an unfavorable view of the Conservative leader, while 42% had a favorable impression, which would put him at a -12 net. But Poilievre easily cleared his mandatory leadership review at last month's Conservative convention, winning the support of 87.4% of delegates. That wasn't a vote of the party rank and file, but rather by delegates selected by Conservative riding associations. The Conservative MP said Poilievre's supposed popularity with the party base seems out of line with the sentiment among voters and caucus. Quote, at the convention, he got 87.4% of the vote. That's not really what I felt in the caucus, nor what I feel on the ground, the MP said. So I'm not sure how that result came, because delegates were hand-selected, and rumor has it, if one is to believe it, that they were asked prior to being selected if they would indeed vote Pierre to commit to it. Despite the issues, the MP said Poilievre, quote, Poilievre is, quote, definitely not going to step down, even if the Liberals get enough seats to push off an election until 2028 or 2029. Quote, he's not going to relinquish power. He's worked too hard for too long. Or as we said on the show, from my cold, dead hands, with fingernail marks in the floorboards. He does not want to give up that cushy job. He does not want to give up that taxpayer-funded salary. He does not want to give up the best public housing the taxpayer money can buy. He likes living off the public teat. He really, really does. Now, when I talk about the meltdown and I talk about it being real, it is coming from a wide variety of sources, of course. And Evan Scrimshaw, I believe, had a little bit to say about that. I'm going to take a little look here and find what it is that he had to say. Maybe I read that one yesterday. Yes, I did. Sorry, not Evan Scrimshaw. Am I mistaking here, or am I thinking about someone else? Yes, sorry, I'm thinking about David Clyman Haga, I believe. Yeah, yes, sorry, my mistake. Also, a great writer that we feature on the show a lot. He had a piece called Alberta Conservatives Fume as Edmonton MP Matt Jeneroux jumps the ship for the Liberals. And he writes, as everybody in Canada surely knows by now, Alberta Member of Parliament Matt Jeneroux has crossed the floor of the House of Commons to join Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals, who, whether you like it or not, still appear the national governing party of Canada. Mr. Jeneroux made the announcement in a letter published on social media in which he said after listening to Mr. Carney's world-famous rupture address in Davos last month, he had concluded we are living through a moment, quote, that demands steady leadership, constructive collaboration between all parliamentarians, and a willingness to stand up and serve even when the path is not easy. Accordingly, he continued, dropping his metaphorical bombshell, quote, after further reflection with my family and conversations with my colleagues and constituents, I will be continuing to serve in Parliament, and I will be working with Prime Minister Mark Carney as part of his new government. Boom. In a social media statement, Prime Minister Carney added that he was, quote, honored to welcome Matt Jeneroux to our caucus as the newest member of Canada's new government. Building a stronger, more resilient, and more independent country will require ambition, collaboration, and occasionally sacrifice. Naturally, the opposition Conservatives are apoplectic. They must have thought last fall, when there were rumors Mr. Jeneroux might be pondering executing a floor crossing, that they had successfully bullied the former Progressive Conservative Edmonton MP into shutting up for the time being and then quitting quietly this summer. Apparently, things were bad enough at that time that Mr. Jeneroux felt compelled to issue a social media statement saying no one had threatened him. He announced his plans to remain in Parliament for a spell, then quit in the same fashion. Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, who blew a 27-point lead in the polls to lose last April's federal election and his own seat, immediately said Mr. Jeneroux had, quote, betrayed the people of Edmonton Riverbend who voted for affordable food and homes, safe streets, and a strong resource sector. Well, one can feel a certain sympathy with that point of view and still not feel very sympathetic with Mr. Poilievre, who has too much of a whiff of the MAGA about him for a lot of Canadian voters. There's no question Mr. Poilievre has been wounded again by Mr. Carney's strategy, with Mr. Poilievre now back in the saddle as the just reaffirmed Conservative leader and back in his native Alberta as short-term MP for Battle River Crowfoot. He appears to be a liability, both for the Conservatives and the folks in his riding who are stuck with him for the indeterminate future. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Carney has found an unconventional route to building the majority he couldn't quite win last April 28. Every time Mr. Poilievre scrambles to his feet, he gets knocked down again. He gets knocked down. He scrambles up again. But no, you're going to keep him down. He gets knocked. Every time Mr. Poilievre scrambles back to his feet, he gets knocked down again, just as he was in November when Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont crossed to the Liberals, and in December when Ontario MP Michael Ma did the same thing. There are probably more Conservative MPs waiting in the wings, and maybe some new Democrats too if the party chooses the wrong leader next month. We haven't seen anything quite like this out here in Tory Blue Alberta since April 20, 1977, when Cactus Jack Horner of the Conservative Horner political clan made the same trip from the opposition benches to Pierre Trudeau's Liberal government side of the House. That made 420 a day that lived in infamy in Alberta until PM Justin Trudeau's government legalized cannabis in 2018, which may account for a certain amount of forgetfulness among much of the Conservative base. Mr. Horner went straight into the Liberal cabinet where he remained until 1979, when he was defeated along with the elder Mr. Trudeau's Liberal government. By 1980, the Liberals were back, but without Mr. Horner, who was punished by the voters of his Crowfoot riding, perhaps ironically, essentially the same territory as that now represented by Mr. Poilievre. So those things may or may be a harbinger of what will happen to Mr. Jeneroux, who may or may not have plans to remain in politics after the next federal election. In the meantime, he is said to abide in Vancouver when he's not in Ottawa. For the time being, Mr. Carney said in his statement, quote, "As a new special advisor on economic and security partnerships, Matt's leadership will contribute to strengthening Canada's alliances and trade partnerships, advancing Canada's leadership in global security cooperation, and building our strength at home." It's a pity that the late Alberta Premier Jim Prentice isn't still around to observe this demonstration of the right way to organize a mass floor crossing. Mr. Prentice briefly appeared to be some kind of political genius on December 7th, 2014, when it was revealed that he had pursued Wildrose Party leader Danielle Smith and 8 of her MLAs to cross the floor of the provincial legislature en masse to join his progressive conservative government. Alas for all concerned, astonishment soon turned to outrage. Miss Smith's political career quickly soured for a long spell, and the ensuing brouhaha played a significant role in the election of Rachel Notley's NDP in May 2015. Probably the first political casualty of the mass floor crossings of 2014 was Rob Anderson, MLA for Airdrie at the time, who in 2010 had quit the PCs and crossed the floor to join the Wildrose Party. So he crossed the floor twice. And then crossed back with Miss Smith, making him a double floor crosser. I should have just finished reading the sentence rather than interject. In January 2015, presumably reading the handwriting on the wall, he announced he was leaving politics. Unfortunately for Alberta, it could be argued, like Miss Smith, Mr. Anderson found a second life in politics with the United Conservative Party. She's the premier and he's her chief of staff, an intemperate social media commentator and a co-author of the separatist Free Alberta strategy that appears to have been fully adopted by the party. Mr. Carney, meanwhile, is demonstrating a more effective way to use floor crossings to keep his political opponents off balance is to make one bombshell announcement at a time. When they call them the L-shaped party, well, they call them the L-shaped party for a reason, and they sure can execute a smuggler's turn on policy when necessary, faster than the conservative rivals seem to be able to manage. Brace yourself, Albertans. So yeah, and with regard to the more effective way to use floor crossings, you had former conservative, federal conservative member Lisa Raitt pretty much saying, you know, if there are any more conservatives that are thinking to go, like, go now and get it over with. And I thought, laughed to myself. It's like, oh, it's so cute. You think you get to give orders. And, you know, why would that happen? What would be the fun in that for the Liberals? The drip, 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 drip of one with a little bit of time and then another is so much more entertaining for those of us who love politics and are not particularly fans of the Conservative Party, but also all the more strategic for the Liberals. I mean, where things stand now, given that there are 3 by-elections coming, perhaps a 4th with Alexandre Boulerice riding, perhaps a 5th with Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, although that one is already in the Liberal fold. Why take another floor crosser? There might be floor crossers that are ready to go now, but the Liberals have to accept them, and they get to announce when they're going to accept them. So why would Mark Carney accept another floor crosser until the by-elections are over, during which he might get his majority just that way? Of course, it will be a thin one, and he would like to pad it a little bit, so, you know, especially on votes on the budget, that can happen and somebody can be sick and he doesn't have to panic. But at the moment, there's no particular urgency for the Liberals to take on another floor crosser. So even if there are people lining up, why wouldn't he make them wait a little and slow time release this? Drip, drip, because, you know, Lisa Raitt invoked the taxpayers in this, you know, for the good of the taxpayers or whatever. It's like, this is not about the taxpayers. This is for, that would be for the good of the Conservative Party, because the faster all the floor crossings happen, then the faster the Conservatives can regroup. And why would the Liberals want that? Now, talking about the meltdown, kids and girls, it is real and it is intense. There have been a lot of people that have come out of the woodwork, and interesting things are happening here. Very interesting things are happening in this case. How would I put it here? Remember last November when nobody in the Conservative Party of Canada could explain why Matt Jeneroux would announce that he would be resigning, but thus inflicting maximum damage to the leader post-D'Entremont, but not leaving now. Why would he not resign formally until sometime in the spring? Because he has to announce to the speaker that he's vacating his seat before a by-election can happen, and that hasn't taken place yet. And then remember how CPC party sent out Yankee Doodle Andy, the errand boy still paying off his debt to the party, to deflect, gaslight that the Liberals had performed some kind of Jedi mind trick to force Jeneroux to announce the resignation. Still not explaining it's much delayed coming into effect. He basically was saying, it was Liberal pressure that forced Jeneroux to leave. And at the same time, there was some talk that the pressure might have been coming from other places. And our hypothesis at the time was that given the PM had immediately called a by-election for Pierre Poilievre when he wanted one, Pierre Poilievre feared that the Prime Minister would do that again if Jeneroux vacated his seat. And that would create the possibility of him losing a seat in Alberta due to an election prior to his leadership review, because it would be very, very embarrassing, inconvenient, and awkward for Rerun to go into a leadership review vote with not only 2 floor crossers, but also having lost a seat in Alberta, of all places, and this as a result of a vote. Jeneroux had already not been caucusing with the party and was not in the House for critical votes to support the CPC, even in opposing the budget. Given the announcement of his resignation, there was no expectation he would return. At the time, everybody in the party and the country knew that Jeneroux would be collecting salary and benefits and accumulated pension time for being a part-time MP, at least where work on Parliament Hill and in the House was concerned. He would probably still be doing constituency work, and they had no problem with that. They didn't mention that peep about that all throughout November and December and January. They also didn't mention a peep of it when Damien Couric had announced that he was resigning the seat but hadn't vacated it for a while before the by-election either. Well, now looking at who suddenly has a problem with this. Aaron Gunn, who decided that he was not going to run for the leadership of the BC Conservatives, put out a tweet saying, "I'm pretty sure Matt Jeneroux, who lied and misled his constituents during the last election, hasn't shown up for work one time since November, and he hasn't even bothered to cast a vote. At the very least, he should reimburse taxpayers the $50,000 plus he's taken without doing any work." And Aaron Gunn could have said that any time since Matt Jeneroux resigned, but Matt Jeneroux wasn't in the House to vote with the Liberals. So Aaron Gunn said nothing, but now that he's crossed, now Aaron Gunn wants there to be financial penalty for Matt Jeneroux. And what's really interesting is that Pierre knew that Matt Jeneroux was not going to be resigning all this time, and he didn't say anything. He didn't say, no, we can't have this with our party. So it's kind of looking here that the Conservative Party of Canada abused of our tax dollars to ensure that Matt Jeneroux would not be in the House to vote with the Liberals at this particular time. But now they're complaining about it. Interesting hypocrisy. Now that Jeneroux has crossed, of course, we also get to talk about those sheer alleged pressure tactics by Liberals to force his resignation. Well, it seems that that's not a thing, because according to Stephanie Ha of CTV News, she writes, sources tell CTV News that Jeneroux had conversations with senior staffers from Carney's office as recently as Wednesday, after which the impression was that Jeneroux would be crossing the floor. Amid the speculation, a source close to Jeneroux tells CTV News that Conservative Party officials made it known to him that there would be consequences if he did cross the floor. So when he was saying, no, I wasn't coerced, turns out he was potentially, by his own party, at least, to not resign immediately. How interesting is that? And then, even though he said that, there was also that cryptic "leave my family alone" message that had people scratching their heads. Well, about that, uh, you'll never guess what's creeping out of the woodwork now that he's decided he is going to cross. The person who plays the character of Mario, the influencer on Twitter, had things like this to tweet. "You won't be the first to say this. Quote, he's so nice. Quote, Mario, he would never cross the floor. Quote, I'm not sure who told you that, but it's not true. Quote, he just wants to be with his wife and kids. Well, he just crossed the floor. And for the record, I knew of these, quote, accusations last year. You don't think I know more? I don't say things just to say it. I don't need clicks, follows, engagement. Call it low, but I call it the truth. Please spare me the whole, quote, this only creates division and hatred. Tell that to his volunteers and constituents who he just betrayed. Ask them what they feel. What a ridiculous take. Maybe soon I'll name the names." And then in another tweet, "Am I going to be the guy that breaks it to Matt Jeneroux's wife what Matt has done while in Ottawa? I'll tell you this much. The staffers, they know. Wink." So Matt, this Mario character, is basically implying that he was unfaithful to his wife. He says, "Am I going to be the one to tell?" Well, you just did through this tweet, if that is true. But the other thing is that Mario, allegedly, if he has names to name, and this is true, basically was sitting on this information the entire time, and he was fine with keeping it secret so long as Matt Jeneroux stayed on side. But now that Matt Jeneroux is leaving, well, then he feels his wife deserves to know. Now, that says a lot about the person playing the role of Mario. If that is even true, because somebody that keeps on saying, maybe I'll name names, but doesn't name names, either has no names or knows that if he does mention a name, that there's probably going to be a defamation suit coming very soon. And maybe he doesn't want to lose what little he has. So I have a feeling that there will not be any names named anytime soon. But there will be consequences when, ooh, look at that. Let's put out some words that would let people suggest or led them to believe that he was unfaithful to his spouse. And let's ask him to pay back money. Let's kneecap him financially as well, only after he's crossed. But so long as he stayed out of the house and didn't vote with the Liberals, everybody was content not to make these types of public statements. Ugly is on the inside. This is the party. This is gross behavior. So the meltdown is real, and it's becoming increasingly clear to Canadians that the Conservative Party of Canada, given tactics, methods, and slander, is not a party for the people, but a party that is against the people, even members of its own caucus, allegedly elected to first represent you, not the leader and not the party. And this is a party that appears to have no legitimate purpose for existing, at least where representational politics are concerned. Genuine and good Conservatives should abandon it and build something new, because in my opinion, this party is unsalvageable. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate when you do, especially when you share a little bit of why it is that we resonate with you. If you would like to help us, kids and cubs, please scan this QR code, which will bring you to our YouTube page. And if you haven't already clicked on like, share, and subscribe, especially subscribe, please do, because that really helps us with the algorithm and it helps people find us and it helps us grow. And we would really appreciate your help with that. And if you believe that what we do is of quality and you believe that we deserve some financial support in order to be able to do more of this for you, please scan this QR code and that will bring you to our coffee page or the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, where you can do your little bit to keep your favorite beaver nice and moist. Because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. And because I'm cheering from Canada so much, I'm actually losing my voice a little bit. So please send me some beaver moisture. It's very, very important. Kids and Cubs, if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Please send us something there, and a big thank you to Kit. I believe it is Tabby G who sent us a little something a couple of days ago. Warms the cockles of my heart to know that you believe that what we do has value. So thank you. And to anybody who has, of course, bought memberships and has contributed through the live chats and super chats during the show, thank you for all your generosity. We are very grateful. We are fully independent, and it's because of you that we have the financial resources to be able to do this. So thank you for keeping us going. If you cannot contribute financially, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. And there you can contribute in other ways by letting us know what you think about the show, or offering us some guest suggestions, participating with the Kids Who Cook hashtag, showing us what it is that you are eating or creating, and of course, sending us some good news so that we have a way to lighten the mood after a little bit of doom scrolling. So thank you so very much. And of course, I don't believe I said it, but if you want to avoid the CE Tech Rose because you're buying Canadian, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and you can send a direct donation that way so that the USC Tech Bros do not get a cut of your donation. That will come to us as well. So we thank you for all the ways you support us. Because democracy is something that you do. Remember, on the 23rd in Chicoutimi, there will be a provincial by-election. So if you are there, vote. Of course, we have House of Commons petition E7148 to encourage the leader of the opposition to get his security clearance, and for the House to do something to make that mandatory. So please go sign that. We're at 37,190 signatures now. You go to ourcommons.ca and petition 7148. We have the Alto train public consultation as well, Kids and Cubs. So lots of ways for you to do democracy. And if you are in Alberta, Corb Lund has something going on with regard to making sure that you protect your waterways from coal mining. That could definitely impact those. So please go and sign that as well. Words of wisdom, Kids and Cubs. We're on our final days here. So if you have some downtime, squeeze the maximum out of every moment like that. When you get some rest and to rejuvenate is precious time. So maximize it. It can be a tough world out there, Kids and Cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of uno, dos, tres, may I please hear you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. Uno, dos, tres. Ah, fantastico. I absolutely, as your queen, must oblige. Here you go, a little cock-a-doodle-doo for you.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Amore besitos, and we will see you very soon.